Speaking of He-Man, have y'all seen the new Netflix joint?
I haven't watched it yet. No.
Yep, I watched all 5 episodes on Friday.
Nice. Yeah, I watched the first. Episode last night, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
There's really well done.
There's one scene in the first episode where one of the characters punches a horse, and I don't know why it's funny to me, but it's hilarious. I cackled for like 5 minutes because it's not even a major point. It's just like a little blip. Like he just punches the shit out of a horse, and then they go do other things.
Nice.
It was funny. It was good. Good times. No, yeah, they did a really great job with it. So,
did you read that Mom book, Mother of Madness from Amelia Clark?
I did, yeah, with Marguerite Bennett helping her out with writing. Yep.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of that book is whenever she's telling her backstory, and she's like, she goes, "I'm sorry, I have to do this obligatory backstory, but you watch 22 movies from the MCU. You can sit with me for 5 pages."
I saw that. Yeah. No, I did. I read that book. It was it was really, really wordy. Like there was yeah, they threw all the words in that book, but no, it was fun. It was good, and the art was gorgeous. Like full disclosure, I'd had like 2 glasses of wine when I read it, so I'm not exactly sure I followed it. It was very jumpy, but that's probably more me than the book. So, well, hey everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. If I'm looking at the spreadsheets right, it says this is episode 187, which is a lot. It's a lot of episodes that we've done now.
It's definitely more than 186.
It's at least one more, at least. And that's that's using my Arkansas math. As usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
I'm Craig Lance.
And we're Mattless today. Matt had to do some work. He's running around doing some stuff. But that's okay. We've got a friend that's going to jump in that third chair, and he's going to help us out. Not only is he going to help us talk about comics, he's actually going to talk about a comic that he and some other fine folks actually make, and that they have available. Well, it'll be available soon, but you can actually order it right now. And that is our buddy Nick Helms. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How about you guys?
You know, man. It was a week of Mondays, but that's okay. It's better now. It's better now. Sunday mornings, coffee, comics. It's going to make it all better. So we're going to do things a little bit different than what we normally do. If you're a fan of the show and you've listened to our episodes, we're just going to kind of dive straight into it because I want to hear all about this Kickstarter. But I want to say before we do that, if you like what you hear, you want to know more about the Kickstarter, or you want to chat with us off the podcast, because you can't really chat with us on the podcast, I guess, you can chat over to our Facebook group. We're Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. You just search it in the little search bar and it will come up. You can also check us out on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those things. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you want to be linked up with Nick, or maybe you dig some of the stuff that he's done, or you want to find out where you can check some of his other things that he has done in the past, more so in the film world, shoot us an email. We're southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Now the housekeeping's over with. How do I do with that? Yeah, I do okay with that. Try to dust my shoe.
You do great with it because I'm not doing it. So
that's true. You've done it once or twice. I
have done it a couple of times.
I spring it on you. I'm just like, hey, do this. Well, Mr. Helms, you are here, number one, because we like you. Number two, because you have a project out now on Kickstarter that I haven't checked the numbers. Is it fully funded yet, or are you guys almost there?
Yeah, we actually got fully funded in 6 days.
Very cool. I thought you guys had. I knew you had posted about a stretch goal for the second issue, which is excellent.
Yep, that's what we're working on now, stretch goals. We got about 5 days left on the Kickstarter if you listen to this on Sunday. So I believe it ends on noon on Thursday, on the 30th. That's Thursday. I don't know numbers. Numbers are hard.
Especially early on a Sunday morning.
Thursday, the 30th is a Friday.
Then it's Friday, Craig. Man, you didn't have to call me out, Craig.
No, I'm just letting people know you don't want to cut off your Kickstarter day.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, so we're going to actually throw it over to you. I want you to give us the 30,000 foot elevator pitch of what your book is. Now, this is a book that you wrote and you actually lettered yourself, if I'm not mistaken. And you had an individual named Nate Niles do the pencils with Jake Jackson on inks. And it is a fully black and white book. So give us the elevator pitch on it, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the things that go into making a comic.
Yeah, no problem. So my book is called Vengeance Emergence. This is number 1. Now, Vengeance Emergence is about a guy named Nick Burrow. We have the same name because I created the book, so hey, whatever. And he is a college baseball star / investigative journalist, and he lives in the city of Metron. And the Metron city is pretty much has a lot of crime. It's ridden with crime. And most of that crime runs through the Nightmare Gang. So instead of like the Kingpin running the all crime, it's the Nightmare Gang, in my tale. And so what he loves his city, and so he wants to stop the Nightmare Gang. And he ends up writing an article that has to do with them, and that spirals into a whole bunch of events that lead to him becoming the hero known as Vengeance. And it's a superhero tale. It's got a kind of a 90s feel to it when you read it, or at least that's what I was trying to accomplish. And luckily, some people that have already read it told me that it feels like very 90s, and that's very good because that's what I wanted. And it's as Caleb said, it's black and white, and it's got I wanted to have a gritty noir feel. And basically what I'm just trying to accomplish is showing this superhero tale, but I want it to be very personable and just the struggles that the main character is going to have to go through with involving his transformation into the superhero.
I was going to say, how many books do you have planned for the series?
Okay, so can I give you a backstory of the whole story real quick?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, because all right. So I created this back in 2006. I wrote it as a movie. I was going to do the movie, casted a bunch of people in it, but a lot of people were just people that I knew, because also the book the movie when I originally wrote it, and all the characters in it were based on people that I knew, or they had names, or their personalities were based on people that I knew at the time, because that's when I just started writing movies and stuff like that. So it was my first thing ever. So I wanted it to be special. But I decided not to do the movie, and just for a bunch of other reasons. And so it didn't happen. And then I just kept on building on it because it's just like, I love this idea. So I ended up writing a couple more movies. So I had 3 movies. And then I just kept on building it more and more. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I would write this as a TV show. And I was like, because I got too much stuff. And so basically I have enough material in this nice like file folder thing here that has all these character arcs and stories and all things that I've written down, like summaries of each episode. Basically, I have 100 episode story if I was to do it as a television show. So of TV, 100 episodes of TV. So now I am decided a couple years ago to make this into a comic book. So therefore, I'm just going to keep making the comics until Jake will no longer make the comics anymore. So the first movie that I wrote, I have it broken down into 24 issues. So as long as Jake will take money and draw what I already have like a dozen scripts written. So I mean, as long as he draws and does it, we'll just keep putting them out.
Nice.
Well, I've yet to meet an artist who won't take money. So
not yet.
So they may take more money from someone else, but I've yet to meet one that just won't take money. So I was just going to say, number one, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think you're right. It does have this 90s feel to it. As I was reading it, especially the opening couple of pages, the way that you've got it sequenced, the way that you've got it laid out, and the way that the pacing goes, reminded me a little bit of like the early 90s, early Top Cow stuff from Image, and the way that they introduced their characters. So like I appreciated that you used that formula, and it worked really well. I thought, the way that you introduced your characters. Now I want to talk about the stuff, like you said, you've got a history with film, but I want to talk about actually making the comic first, and kind of get and we've had you on the show before, and you may have answered this, but it's been a while back, but Did you tell me your origin story with comics? Like, how did you get into comics, and what are some of the strings that you pull from when you're thinking about what would make a cool comic? Are you more of a Jeff Lemire slice of life, things that make you cry book? Early, the darkness, like Silvestri stuff. Like, where's your origin in sequential storytelling?
Okay. So whenever I got into comics at a young age because, like Caleb, I grew up in the '90s. I'm only like a month older than you, so we pretty much grew up on the same stuff. I was watching X-Men the animated series, Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series. Those were my jams, when I was a kid. And so that's really what got me watching those. That's when I started reading comics, and I had like old schools. I was reading Superman and stuff. I mean, like whenever and Batman comics, then like Spawn comics back in then, and that's what I was collecting as a kid. And then as I grew up, I was still liking superheroes and stuff, but I kind of fell out of comics for a while, just because where I live is there's not really comic book shops, and there's just got into other stuff.
Right.
And so it kind of fell out of comics, and I think it was whenever the last time I came here, which was a few years ago, whenever I was doing the Batman web series. I hadn't got back into comics at that point, but I got back into comics right after that because you guys kind of inspired me.
Oh, nice.
Because when I came onto the show, I had never listened to the show before. And so I just came on the show through our mutual friend of ours, and then I ended up listening just in a few weeks to all your past episodes, and you've been a regular listener since then. And so that's kind of what got me back into comics and stuff. And when I started collecting again, was
dude, that warms my heart. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm like I like it's all it's always weird. Because we're not a very big podcast, and most of the stuff we do just for fun. It's always it's both a weird, strange, and good feeling to hear that we we helped out with that, got you back into it.
Absolutely,
makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I'm not used to having influence over people.
Warm and fuzzy, and you didn't even have to drink any rum to get there.
No, just pure coffee, just right in my veins. So. Yeah, no, I know what it's like growing up, being away from not having access to comics and stuff. It makes it really easy to fall out of it. But it's also, the saying "you can't come home again" is not true for comics. You can always jump right back in. And speaking of friends of ours, rumor has it that there are some variant covers of your comic that a good friend of ours did.
Yes. In fact, as you mentioned, I'm the writer and letterer on the comic. And then Nate Niles, which is a guy that I found on Twitter, he did the art for the first issue. And then Jake Jackson, who is the other half of Original Geek Comics. That's what we call ourselves. Mm-hmm. Jake, he did the inks on the issue, and he did the main cover. And he's going to be doing the art from now on. But as you mentioned, variant covers. We have 3 total covers, and another cover is done by Travis Starling.
Yep.
Who he posts some on the SFG page. But another one was made by Mr. Sean Litton.
Yep.
And on the show.
I think that Sean, former host of the show. I think that this is his first actual cover.
He's a published comic artist now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then fun fact, Nick, I don't know if you know this or not, but I actually grew up with Travis. Travis Starling. He and I grew up in the same little church community together way back in the day. So it's funny, it's one of those things that it kind of flows through, and it's like, oh hey, I know all these people. This is awesome. So there are some themes in your book that I think really do draw from classic superhero, the structure of superhero stories, like the baseball field. When I see a baseball field in comics, I automatically think of old X-Men books, or your hero is this kind of a quiet, sultry guy who's an investigative reporter, which makes me think of things, Clark Kent being the obvious example, where you were you cognizant of that while you were writing it? Were you trying to, like, create this kind of homage to classic superhero comics, or was that just kind of an afterthought? It's like, oh, this is kind of the world I live in, so I want to write about it.
Well, I mean, of course I was inspired by classic comics, and Superman was kind of my jam back around at that time anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was an inspiration, but at the same time, it's kind of both, because in 2006 when I first wrote it, I was going to school for journalism, so and I also played on my high school baseball team, so I mean, you can see where the comparisons are. But at the same time, so like I said, it's kind of both though, because I knew there was some comparisons, and actually in the original movie script I did have a Superman reference in the
yeah. So what got so now we've mentioned film a few times, and that's what we actually had you on originally for, was to talk about one of your films. What got you into filmmaking? And so I know you had a company for a while, and you guys did these really great short films, mostly starring DC characters. You kind of dipped yourself into the world of DC. So what got you into that, and what specifically about DC characters drew you to making the kind of stories that you guys told?
Okay, so I was always liked movies and stuff, and I was, because of going for journalism, I write, and so was writing articles, and then I was like, well, I have all these ideas of things that I think would be cool, and so then a friend of mine at the time gave me a book about screenwriting, and then I learned from reading that book of how to write a screenplay. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I had this idea, which is where I come up with the superhero idea. But then together we were huge fans of Smallville back then. And so we thought, and it was nearing its end around that time. And so we thought to ourselves, what should the CW do after Smallville, superhero wise? And we thought a Batman story would be cool. And originally we just thought about maybe a Batman origin story, kind of like, and we just call it Gotham. This was way before the Gotham show come out, which was
right.
But we're like, okay, no, how about we do something different instead of doing an origin story, where we came up with Gotham Knights, which was a web series that was about what happens to Gotham when Batman dies. Because I believe I said this before, that to me, Batman is the cornerstone of the DC universe, or especially the Batman. And without Batman, it's kind of like that last Jenga piece that if you pull out, the whole tower topples.
Right.
And just chaos would be everywhere with villains and heroes and stuff, not knowing what to do with the death of Batman. And so we've decided that we were just going to write that and pitch that. Anyway, so that's why we started doing the DC stuff, and then I started doing that a couple years ago, and did some other independent film work and stuff like that. But as of this year, I'm no longer doing film work. I'm no longer with that company that I was with,
mm-hmm.
So I'm just by myself now, and I just decided, because I have other film ideas, but I'm going to try to translate those into comics now. It's just easier on me, because I'm married and I have 5 kids, and I have 2 jobs, and so it's just easier just to write comics instead of doing film work, because film work takes a lot.
Right.
A lot of time.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like I have tons of time on my hands. So that was one of the reasons why it didn't work out with the film company and stuff, is because I just don't have the time that some people have. Because I mean, I just got too much on my plate, personal wise, to do too much. But comic work is easy. So compared to film work, because for me, because I can just write my scripts at home, like during during the day. And I don't have to leave. I don't have to take time away from my family, because I'm just it's at work hours anyway. I work from home, so I'm just here anyway. So like I'm doing something to work, and then I have a few minutes. So then I type on the script. Much easier,
Gotcha. So I have a question about the script work. Tell us a little bit about that process, because I know every comic writer does it a little bit different. So do you describe basically a storyboard that you're wanting the artist to draw, or do you kind of leave it up to the artist, or how do you work that?
Yes, and if you don't mind, I'm going to also just want to mention how the difference is between the film and the comic art.
Sure.
Because the film, it's like it's a lot of dialogue, and then it's just you write like a short description or whatever of what you want, because film work is just it's a visual thing, so you don't have to write a whole lot in the script work. And then so then you're just typing pages and stuff. Now whenever I decided to write as a comic, I was like, how do you write comic scripts? I don't know. So I found this thing online from Greg Pak that tells you is basically laid out how you should format scripts. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. So it's much different, because instead of like, while you are writing pages, the thing is that you also have to. So this is page 1 and page 2, and this has so many panels on it, right? So then you have to write it as in panels, and then you write, and you got to be very descriptive for some stuff. This is what you want here. This is what it looks like. This is what should be going on. But you also have to leave some up for interpretation from the artist. So it's kind of you have to blend kind of what you want to give and what you don't want to give. But if you want specific things, it's like the building has this, and this in it, or in that this guy's doing this, and then they just decide like, what they want that to look like. But it's very different because, as I said, with, movie scripts, you're just writing pages. And then on the panels, your page 2 could be like on the screen, could be 2 different pages, even though it's just 1 page, because you're writing panels, doing it by panels. So it's very different. It's very different on the formatting. And I find it very interesting the way that you break it down. And
right.
Stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a couple of other good books too. I've read the one that Greg Pak wrote, and look, if you're going to learn to write comics from somebody, Greg Pak is is a really good one to do it. That the man understands how to speak to his artists. There's a couple other good ones too that I think are really helpful. And I say this as somebody who's not a comics writer, so it's one of those things like I may just need to stay in my lane, but also I've heard this from people who are actually, writers and professionals. But the Scott McCloud books, Understanding Comics, are also, I know they're you were talking about cornerstones earlier. Like that book seems to be a cornerstone for a lot of writers and artists, and understanding how to translate stories into a visual medium that's just fixed on the page. Those Understanding Comics, and I think Creating Comics is the other book. So if you haven't read those, check out Scott McCloud's book, and also I should say congratulations to Scott McCloud. He was inducted into the Eisner Hall of Fame this past weekend.
Oh, nice.
Overdue, in my opinion. Man's done amazing stuff for comics. What are some of the speed bumps? So we talk about it, were like the differences in writing for scripts and writing for comics. Did you have any like potholes in the road? Were there any things that that were really hard to break in making that transference? Did you find yourself doing things you're like, oh shit, I got to quit doing that? It doesn't work this way?
No, I didn't really have any problems as far as writing a script. That actually came easy.
Yeah.
It was just, learning how format and stuff like. Now, as far as there has been some challenges, and that challenge was like just finding someone to draw the book for the longest time, and then it's a lot of waiting, because you gotta wait for the artist to get done with the drawing and stuff like that, and then I had to find an inker, and that took forever too. So it was a lot of, am I going to get this done, or is this going to happen? And so it was just like it was a really struggle, because especially with the artist, is because like, okay, I'm going to have you this and this many pages done by this date, and then by that date I have no pages, and it's just okay. Like, sorry, I have a lot of other or forgot or something like that. So it was a lot of there's a lot of struggle there, but as far as the writing part, I really didn't have any struggles there. I mean, because I've written so many movie scripts, and it was a bit of a change, but it wasn't. I was like, oh, cool, because I actually really enjoyed that have to be more descriptive, because I've done film work and wanted to do direct and stuff like that. And so and plus I've been building this story since 2006. I have the entire visual stuff in my head. So don't you want me to describe everything? No problem. I got you covered. I've been watching this stuff for 15 years. Right. So yeah, I've been watching this stuff play out in my head for 15 years. So I already know what's going to happen. I know when the person sneezes. I'll tell you everything. Let's do this. So
well, you talked about having a hard time finding a writer. Speak on that for a second. Like, what was the process going from, you've got these pages in your hands to actually, getting pages in? How did you find Nate?
Oh yeah, so it was difficult finding an artist. I found him via Twitter, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was just like, you need an artist or a comic or whatever, then just do your hashtags and stuff like this, and just people search hashtags and stuff like that. So he was just searching hashtags basically, and that's how he found us. Now I had spoken to a lot of different people, and there was someone else was going to do art, and then they just couldn't do it, and then I found someone through Instagram, and it just didn't work out, and that they were going to do it, and then they just couldn't. But then Nate found us on Twitter because of just a status that I made, or status. I use Facebook too much. With the hashtags, and he found and messaged and was like, "Here, will you look at my work?" And it's like, "Yeah, no problem. Let me check it out." I was like, "Okay, I really like this, and this is my pitch for the book." Gave him my pitch. He wanted to work on it, and so we ended up working on it. And it took a long while, like 6 months, I think, maybe, trying to find someone to work on it. And then once I got Nate, it took like a year and a half for him to get the whole book done of pencils.
Well, and that's, yeah, I mean, so, and especially when you're dealing with indie artists and stuff too, that's always something I'm curious about, because so my undergrad degree is in creative writing and stuff. I write mostly prose short stories and that kind of thing, but I love comics, and the idea has always crept in my brain to kind of do my own, kind of like you were saying it did with yours. But like you said, you're a working father with 2 kids, or 5 kids. You're a working father with 5 kids, and there
2 jobs, 5 kids.
2 jobs and 5 kids. Yeah, there are lots of things that pull money out of your pocket, and with artists, especially other indie artists who they deserve to be paid for their work, and like paying page rates and stuff. The flip side is you're not doing this for a company that's giving you an advance or anything. So how do you find an artist that will work on your stuff, that can produce and also put food on their table at the same time? That has always seemed like the first like hurdle for indie comics folks who don't write and draw themselves, is in putting that together. How did you kind of broach that? And if that's something, financial situation, something that you don't want to talk about, that's totally cool too. I don't want to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, so we had like an agreement of money, so that we did, and I paid him up front, paid him this money, bought him supplies and stuff, so we had that, and then like we ended up buying a printer for him during the process as well, a printer scanner combo, that way he could scan the 11 by 18 or 11 by or some bigger scanner, that where he could scan the bigger, because he was drawing them on boards,
right?
So that way he could scan the boards. I bought that one too. Just trying to hurry up the process, doing all I can, and it is a struggle sometimes with people, and just I mean
people are always the hardest part of that endeavor.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I kind of just I put my foot in my mouth earlier when I said that creating comics was easy or anything, or what I said.
That's why I kind of chuckled, because
I should have specified and meant the writing part of it.
Yeah.
Easy, and it's easier for me as dealing with it because I don't have to leave the house. So I guess I should have specified.
Well, and there's less, the way that I took what you meant was there's less points of contact in the production. So, and you're not having to go through a DP, you're not having to grab actors, you're not having to deal with sound people and cameramen and everything else. It's you speaking to your writer, to your inker, and not in this book, but in a lot of books, to the colorist. It's the telephone game is less. There's not as many points on the grid, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not leaving my house for like 10 hours a day, like 6 different days, or to go film, and not able to answer my phone or anything like that, and do all this other stuff, and not be able to just talk to my family or be there. So that was a struggle, but of the film work. But with comics, you just gotta. It's literally messaging or phone calls, and that's pretty much easy because I'm just literally just here. But yeah, it was a struggle for me, because we had agreed on a lot of stuff and that wasn't being fulfilled. But I really didn't really know. I was, really nice about it, because I mean, I have 5 kids, and so if something comes up with me, I would hope people would admit, I'm a busy person. I would hope that you would understand the distance, which doesn't always work out. So some people take things more negatively, and I try to be as understanding as I can. But at the same time, we're not working further on that, because it just doesn't, I can't wait, 10 years to put out 4 issues on that schedule. So, but luckily I was able to find Jake, and Jake and me came up with this money, and I was like, okay, I can't really do that. That's when I first met Jake, was earlier this year. Or late last year, and after the pages were done, and he was like, "This is the ink. This is what amount." Gave me some really high amount. And I was like, "Okay, well, what about this?" And he was like, "No, I could do it for this," and I couldn't do that at that time. And then after I stopped doing the film work and stuff earlier this year in February, Jake hit me up and was like, "Hey, man. Let's form this company together, and we'll start doing all the comics. And I'll take up artists from time on. I'll ink this first book, and you just pay me this amount. Pay me money whenever you get money. Not a big deal, but just this is what the amount that I can do is." And I was like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "But yeah, let's not let money be the deal, because I really want to work on your book, because I love the idea." So I just pay Jake money whenever I get it, and he's not a big deal, because he's just excited as this book as I am. And so he inked that book, and while he would ink a few pages, send them to me, I would letter them, put it all together. And so that was the end of February, beginning of March, whenever we just started doing it. And now the book's done. The book was done in June. So literally it only took 3 months to ink the book and get it lettered and put together. So that's the kind of work that I like.
Yeah.
So if I'm paying you the money, then let's put the work in. And so and Jake's getting the money, so we're putting the work in. So it's really a struggle of going back to the question of just finding the right people. And everybody understanding. Jake's married, has a kid, and has a job. He's an artist and has his own art business and stuff, and t-shirt printing that he does. And so he's busy too, so we both understand struggles of what goes on in normal day life, and we get each other really well. And so you just got to find that right person, and so the future, I think, is going to be a lot better from here. So
that's awesome. Do you know if this was Jake's first time inking an actual comic? So I know you said he's an artist and he does t-shirt printing and screen printing and that kind of stuff. But the reason I ask is because there's a lot of texture in this book. There's a lot of motion that we've seen new comics and people who are kind of working on a first time project come in, and the work looks kind of stiff. A wall is just a wall, but on this the playing around with the different the textures on the cityscape and the clothes and what have you. If this wasn't his first time inking, like he jumped out and did a damn good job, like for first time jumping into the inking game.
This is our first time doing the comic, me and Jake. My first writing comic. This is my first comic script. This is his first inking of a comic, and the next issue will be his first time that he draws a comic.
Very nice. Cool. That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I just want to say congratulations, because to go from in less than a year from an idea to having a successful Kickstarter with finished product, that's a daunting task that you met. So good job. Like, congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
And yeah, I mean, you've shared the link on our Facebook page a couple of times, but outside of Kickstarter, is there any other way people can get the book, get their hands on it?
Oh yeah, so on Instagram, we're at Original Geek Comics, Original Geek. And just a quick thing about the name, we were geeks before it was cool. And grow up and people made fun of you for wearing superhero shirts and liking and talking about nerd stuff. But now it's like, it's cool because of the MCU did everything. It made it a culture. And now those are the cool kids and they rule the world. But back then, it was hard to get through grade school. But we're Original Geeks. And but yeah, Original Geek Comics on Instagram. And so right now, if you listen to this before Friday at noon on the 30th, you can still donate to the Kickstarter to help us unlock some stretch goals and get some other things for the people that backed. And everything that goes over over the budget of what the original budget was is going straight into issue 2. So that money's just being given to Jake to get the issue 2 done. Mm-hmm. So and then if we get to these, if we somehow reach the $2,500 mark before Friday, everybody that backs will get issue 2.
Nice. Very cool.
No additional backing, and then we won't even do we won't even do a Kickstarter for issue 2 at that point.
Yeah, you can just roll right into doing the
roll in and put it out, send it everybody. But so if it's afterwards that you're able to get the book, or if you're thinking, I don't want to just get all those rewards and stuff like that.
I don't want the rewards.
I just want the book. I don't want the other stuff. Can I just buy the book? We will have the book for sale after the Kickstarter ends, because we already have our first batch of books. So we already have.
And I actually laid eyes on that batch yesterday. So that is a for sure true thing.
Now,
I was gonna throw this out there. Sorry, Caleb, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I can't draw worth shit, but if you need a stick figure cover, holler at me.
Awesome, I got you. We will do a stick figure book together one day.
So,
Craig drawing stick figures.
Are you planning on doing any of like the local con circuit in here to put the book out, or is this mostly just internet based?
Yeah, we plan on doing the cons. We were just at Not Just Another Comic Con yesterday. My table had 2 tables right next to Sean's table where Craig was at. So
nice.
We all had a good time yesterday, enjoying the Not Just Another Comic Con and getting to talk and hang out with. I mean, there was people. We were people. We were friends, and then we're able to haven't done that so long. Oh my goodness, we were able to hang out at con and just chat up all kinds of stuff yesterday. And so I didn't answer any questions for Craig. So I told him, I said, if you've got any comic questions, I will just write them down and answer them tomorrow. I'm not answering any questions for you. But it was fun. We sold. We had, as I said, we had books yesterday, books and shirts, and we sold 11 books yesterday.
That's cool.
Yeah, so which was pretty cool because it was a smaller con. Not Just Another Comic Con is a smaller con, smaller one out of all the other cons, probably one of the smallest ones. But that's cool. It was nice, but it was really cool because I was like, man, if we could sell 11 books at this con, what can we do if we go to SpaCon or Arkansas Comic Con? Let's do one of those.
Right? Yeah. Our other friends were there. Dalton and Wells were there, and they had a really good day as well. So they said the same thing. How this is going to be great when we're at a bigger con. So that's really, I'm happy for you that you were able to sell a few books yesterday.
Yeah, which so the books are out in the wild now. I bought Dalton and Wells. I gave them a book. I was like, you guys, y'all can just have. We gave them a copy, signed copy, both of them, and I made sure they both had one. And they checked out the book. They really enjoyed the book. And then another guy bought the book, and he was at another booth. And then he came back over, and he had high praise for the booth or for the book, and wanted to know if he sent me a review if I had posted on Instagram his review, so I should be doing that tomorrow. So yeah, he already sent me a review for it. And so it was really cool.
Well, the cool thing about that is not just another Comic-Con really isn't a con geared towards comics. It's more of a horror movie con, or it's what it's become in the last couple of years. So the fact that you're moving comics and indie comics at a show that's not really or in the past, at least, I didn't make it to this one, but seems geared more towards horror film is pretty nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing. I believe that I think there was another little comic shop there. And then, of course, 4-Color Media guys, Dalton and Wales were there, and then us. So.
Now, as far
as comic-wise,
was this your first time doing I know it's your first time doing anything for an actual comic, but had you done Kickstarters before in any of your film work? Was this your first foray into like crowdfunding?
As far as running something myself, it's my first time to do it on my own. Yeah.
How was that? Because I know some people get in and they, Kickstarter is such it can be a daunting thing, how to do a campaign and how to make sure you get funded. How did you approach that?
Yeah, so it was very interesting setting up the Kickstarter. There's a lot involved, coming up with rewards and stuff like that. So I mean, it was a task I had to do, and so I mean, it took like a day of just me planning out the Kickstarter, going through and getting it all set up. Just a whole day of like 8 hours at it. I was working at the same time, but like during the slow times or whatever, I'd be doing the Kickstarter. So I mean, it was basically I put a day's work in on that Kickstarter and getting it just to get it set up. I was like, wow, can I not just this is my book, give me money? No, apparently there's a lot more than that. But I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you, Caleb. I was nervous about doing the Kickstarter because Kickstarter is different than the other crowdfunding things, because if you don't meet your goal, you get none of the money, money at all. So I mean, if my goal is only $800, because literally the money is just going into the printing of the books and so that's what the money's going into. Everything else was paid for by me, and I'm not making any money off the book. I was really nervous because I was like, what if I only get $799? And then just means I'm not getting the money. I'm not getting the book. Nobody wants the book. Okay. And so it's just, because when you have a creative mind, you think all the time. Your brain doesn't shut off. So it's just constantly thinking. And so I was real nervous. I was real nervous getting that Kickstarter launched. And so to have it funded, and which 800 is compared to some people's Kickstarters is not a big budget, but we're a bunch of nobodies. So I was like, okay, if we get $500, we'd be lucky. We're a bunch of nobodies. Nobody knows who we are in the comic world. We're just a bunch of people, And so it was a huge deal for me, and it touched my heart. And there was some dust in the room when we hit that $800. The dust fell off the ceiling fan and got my eye. And so it was like, wow, people care.
Well, if you had a hit $799, hit Craig or I up, and we'll up our donation.
If it was $799, I would have just made my secondary email address and put $1 just to make But it was just a little fear that my head goes through. I like to sometimes think. I don't know if I like to, but it happens all the time. I would just think the most negative things. So that's just what goes through. I think it's probably my anxiety at work. So
Anxiety is interesting that way. It does that. So, man, just to kind of wrap this up, I want to say congratulations again to you for getting this out of there for the successful. Like it's just a first timer thing all around. First time writing a comic for you. First time creating a comic for all of your for your partners. First cover for our buddy Sean. And that kind of thing, and first Kickstarter, and you by all accounts are successful in all of that. So good job, congratulations, man. Maybe that'll ease your anxiety. Like you've accomplished something, and this thing lives out in the wild. So again, that's written and lettered by you. Nate Niles did the pencils, Jake Jackson on inks, and from your company Original Geek Comics is Vengeance. So it's awesome. And I appreciate you hooking us up with the PDF. So we could go ahead and like talk about this while before the Kickstarter was even over. So
and congrats to all of you for being published comic book creators now.
Congrats to Sean, because Sean, after yesterday, so like we just printed 50 books, and I think we had like a good amount of each one of the covers.
Mm-hmm.
And after selling books yesterday, and then there was a few people that they're for Kickstarter, they're backers that I went ahead and gave them their books because I know who they are, and I'll just knock on Craig's door if he doesn't cancel his pledge before it ends. So I was like, it's okay. I know all these people. It's okay to give them their books ahead of time because their pledge they're not going to cancel their pledge, and I'm still going to get the money. It's no big deal. So after that, we only have one copy of Sean's left on the first batch of books. So Sean is a popular guy. So with his cover,
congrats to all of you. Yeah,
that's great to hear. So, well, next thing you know, you get this out. You have another couple of successful campaigns. You'll be kicking it at cons and hobnobbing. You won't even be talking to folks like us anymore. You'll just be looking in your rearview mirror. You'll be hanging out with folks like Jed McKay, Alessandro Cappuccino, Rachel Rosenberg, and Corey Petit, who recently put out their own comic from the House of Ideas called Moon Knight #1. So I just want you to remember.
I love your segues.
That was the best Ride that segue, Paul Blart.
I just want you to remember us when you're sipping coffee with Jed McKay at San Diego. Remember the little people.
We'll always remember Craig.
Now, so
yeah, I'm the littlest of people.
At least you got a name drop, Craig.
I was wondering if Caleb was going to catch it or not. I was like, just going to roll the Moon Knight, never even catch it. Later on, I'm going to listen to the show and be like, what?
I just got left behind. Damn. No. So in preparing for this and in talking to Nick about, talking to his book on the show today, he said, well, hey, is this just going to be, we're just going to talk about my book, or do we get to do a roundtable? I want to play on the show too. And I said, well, hell yeah, man. I reached out to Craig, and really this is the way things work. People ask me things, and then I ask Craig things because Craig is daddy of the show. And when Craig gives me the green light, then I bring it to the show. So, but of course, Craig was like, yeah, let's talk about some books.
He's greatly exaggerating the situation here.
I am not. I call Craig daddy all the time. It's true. It's what happens. But no, Nick was like, well, hey, can we talk about Moon Knight? I'm super excited about this book. And I'd love it if this was the roundtable. So, and look, this was a win. So Nick is, he's batting 1,000 as far as his roundtable picks this week, in my opinion. So before we get in too much, I want to say, as always, we're going to talk about the meat and potatoes of the book. So consider this a spoiler warning. If you haven't read Moon Knight #1 yet, because it just came out last week, that's okay. Hit the pause button. Go put money down on a Kickstarter for Vengeance, and then grab Moon Knight and then read it, and then come back and listen. So before we get into it, what's the 30,000 foot consensus on this book? What did you guys kind of think?
Nick?
Man, I love this book. I've loved this book so much. I've read this book 4 times since I got it. So that's how much I love this book. So I was like, gosh, please, more Moon Knight, more Moon Knight.
Yeah, I am not a big Moon Knight mark, but this book nailed it for me. In every aspect, whether it was the writing, the art, it's just a beautiful book. It's well put together. It's well structured. There's everything about this book is worthy of 5 stars in my opinion.
I gotta agree. So I got the Jed McKay cover, which is absolutely stunning. Not Jed McKay. I got the Steve McNiven cover, which is absolutely stunning.
That's the same one I have, the McNiven cover.
Yeah,
I got the Casino one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, just all the variant covers for this were fantastic. No, this is solidly on my pull list. I will definitely check out the entire thing. I think it does a really good job of not only paying some love to the Moon Knights of the past, be it if you're talking about the OG Moon Knight from Werewolf by Night, or you're talking about the stuff that we just most recently got, which kind of stormed the world from art by Greg Smallwood and Jeff Lemire. It does a really good job of tapping into all of those and giving it the nod, but still pushing forward. And I thought that was really great. It's that trick when it comes to superhero comics of using the reader's nostalgia in the right way without getting drowned in it. And I thought Jed McKay did a really great job of that. So we want to talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's do that. So our man, our boy, Mark Spector, Mr. Knight, has, recently, I guess most recently, had a little bit of an issue with the Avengers, wherein Honshu tried to take over the universe. He got punched around by Thor a little bit. Bad times for our man. So he's decided to downsize a little bit and go back to the ground level and maybe pick up where he left off in being the fist of Honshu, and actually just meeting the goals of that calling, even though him and Honshu aren't really on the same page anymore. He's still the fist, but Honshu did some bad things and is basically in God timeout while he cools off a little bit. They had to treat him like a child and drop him in Asgard in an isolation cell, like you do with some gods. So Honshu has came back. He's now kicking it. I'm imagining he's back in New York, but he's taking things street level again. He has set up his own mission. It's not really a church; it's a mission. It's called the Midnight Mission, and he's carving out a territory that is under his protection, and the people who travel at night in that territory will be under his protection. And he's basically doing his best to focus on this mix of being a hero and being the aspect of a god that he now no longer is simpatico with. And what that means is he's protecting people and he's fighting monsters and he's stopping crime, but he's doing it in a very Moon Knight kind of way, which is a no holds barred, pull no punches, just kind of beat the hell out of everybody. And I like that. As he's traveling through, he finds there are essentially vampires who have a pyramid scheme, and they're part of the pyramid scheme is they bite new vampires, and the new vampires then go bite other vampires, and it's supposed to all funnel up and make money. But there's a very good metaphor for consent in this book, because the younger new vampires don't want to be vampires. They never signed up for it. They were taken against their will and bitten. And so, Mark Spector, Mr. Knight, recognizes the fact that, okay, yes, these people are monsters, but they're also innocents. And I think that's kind of a good metaphor for the way that Mark Spector is trying to look at the world. And he brings them into the fold. He makes them part of this little group. And so what the book is shaping up to be is kind of this heroes for hire, Jessica Jones-esque story, where he's people are coming in telling him about their problems, and he's going out and trying to solve them, mostly through punching, but also through other ways, but mostly punching, like Moon Knight does, taking on monsters and everything else. New to the neighborhood, there is a guy that Moon Knight kind of stumbles upon as he's going to stop a crime. But this apparently is not a fellow who needs any help. He handles his own business. And he's a doctor. And as he's talking to Moon Knight, things very quickly dawn on Moon Knight that there is more to this man than what they appear, because this dude knows all about Honshu, and this dude knows all about Mark Spector's duties to Honshu, and how Mark has kind of turned his back and isn't fulfilling his end of the bargain, and where it's going to boil down to is essentially where Moon Knight is the right hand of Honshu. This guy, this new character, is the left hand and is still very much dedicated. And he goes by the name Hunter's Moon. So in your first issue, all of this is happening. All of this is laid out under the guise of Moon Knight is talking to a therapist, very, very Sopranos kind of aspect to it. So he's talking to a therapist about not only his past, but his future and what's happening in the world around him and what it means for him and his dissociative identity disorder and wanting to be a hero and really trying to wrap his mind around who he is and what his goals are going to be. Great story by McKay. I cannot speak highly enough of Alessandro Cappuccio's art.
Oh my gosh, right?
It is, especially his double page spreads. The opening page is Mr. Knight sitting in the all white suit in a chair in front of a statue of Honshu, just contemplating and welcoming you to the book. And just that very first page is a gorgeous gateway to everything that Cappuccio has planned for you in his visual language of the book. Just his images of Moon Knight busting through. It's somewhere in between there's a little bit of like Daniel Warren Johnson there, but there's also a little bit of, I would say there's a little bit of Greg Smallwood even in some of his work. You see a little bit of that. He has a style that's really, it's kind of hard to put his finger on, but he draws motion incredibly well, I think.
Oh, for sure. And the one thing that I loved was when Moon Knight is flying and his wings look like his moon symbol.
Yeah, the crescent.
Yeah. Very cool visual images. The layouts were great. Man, it's just absolutely beautiful.
It's a real great book. The art is just amazing, and just the fight scenes are incredible. And I as I was going to mention the crescent whenever he flies as well. I was like, that's a really nice touch. So I really enjoyed that as well. But I love the aspect of Moon Knight in contrast to the colors of the book as well, like the black and white, how much he stands out from the coloring. I like how that.
Oh, 100%. I think Rosenberg had her work cut out for her in crafting the palette around this book, because you take a character like Moon Knight and
black and white.
Yeah, most of the time it's just going to be black, white, and gray wash, and you have your usage of shadow and camera angle for a character like that. Really, you have to understand what a palette is going to do for that and how to make it a backdrop. And we say this so often. A lot of times, the color in the book is really key in setting the tone for the story. And for a book where the majority of it is going to take place at night, how do you still make this character and the backdrop vibrant and emotive while recognizing, okay, this is the city at 2 a.m. and everything is shrouded in shadow, and just nailed it. Like I have no idea what goes into crafting a color pattern, but I know Rosenberg is is pretty great at it. Just the win, and I like how they took us through the just kind of what Moon Knight does, his mix of fighting monsters, and D-list villains. So because we think about these, and it reminded me a little bit of what Tom King did with Kite Man. As he brought in these characters that we hadn't seen in forever and nobody really cares about, but he just shows you how the everyday pattern of Moon Knight working through what he's supposed to do, deals with these folks like 8-Ball, who's trying to break into a methadone clinic, or what's the rat guy's name?
Vermin.
Yeah, Vermin, who is an old Spider-Man villain. And how he updated their designs a little bit, I think is really cool. Yeah, some of these scenes just where they're sitting in the park, or Moon Knight wields a chainsaw. I'm really excited to see what they do with. I'm curious to see what characters are going to throw into the background. And then last but not least, I'm curious to see. Well, I mean, that doesn't even have to be last. I'm curious to see who this figure is who's eavesdropping, who's stalking Moon Knight. Like, who stalks Moon Knight? Like, that's just not a good idea.
I mean, they tell us, but we don't know really what that means as of yet. So, as far as background characters in this, I really loved his assistant Reese.
Yeah,
in the way she was written. Yeah, I just thought it was just, for somebody that doesn't have many lines in this book, what she did have was pretty great. And, just knowing you're dealing with somebody that's insane and having to be their assistant is just pretty cool. And the way she handles him is pretty cool. So,
or like whenever he's like, "Can you get us some coffee?" and she's like, "Get your own damn coffee."
Yeah. And then she brings him coffee anyway.
Yeah, then she brings him coffee.
Well, you get a in just a very few lines, you get a fully kind of fleshed out structure of who she is as a person, which I think is neat.
Right.
We kind of understand who she is, and without a lot of screen time. So that's, Jed MacKay has written things recently that really, I think, grabbed us all. He's an incredible writer, and I'm glad to see he's going to be on what's hopefully going to be a long running book. I'm not sure. Have we seen how many issues are supposed to be in this?
I think it's ongoing.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing as well. If it's a maxi series or a mini series, I haven't heard the number.
I'm hoping it's more than 12. That tends to be
that's when Moon Knight usually starts to peter out.
Yeah,
with different writers. But the way this is being written, I feel like there's some good stuff. I mean, one of the problems with Moon Knight is his own rogue gallery, right?
Right.
So you got to create compelling villains for him to fight, and that, other than just his own personality. And I think so many times people get drawn into writing about his mental illness, which is a big part of who he is. Don't get me wrong. But they get stuck in that and less about the potential of him being an actual superhero with these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and when you get past that too, and you start to wonder how he fits into the overall kind of street level world that he's a part of, and that's what I like the most about this book. As I was reading it, it really did feel like a Heroes for Hire setup. Like, I think he was using a lot of those same tropes, or like a Jessica Jones situation. There are so many things coming at this character at once, and that they're laid out really well in this first issue, but it's not hard to follow. Because, I mean, you think about what's in this book, the introduction of two new characters, a really great way of laying out all of his different personalities, his relationship with his God, his relationship with himself.
Yeah, well, and also the relation, like you spoke about, his relationship with his gods, plural, but specifically Khonshu,
mm-hmm.
and how he still is this avatar for Khonshu, even though he realizes Khonshu's not, in it for the betterment of the world.
Right.
So, but yet he's still going to be a hero and protect the area he's been given.
And I like the promise of seeing kind of the inner workings of the cult of Honshu, because there's always been this. Well, not always. I don't really think it played much into Bendis's run, but there's always been this kind of behind the scenes understanding that there are other people who are followers of Honshu, who are part of this, be it religion or cult or what do you want to call it, but you never really see them come to fruition. Like you never really, like you saw that a little bit in his Avengers run. He was able to kind of weaponize it and have foot soldiers.
Yeah.
You never really see the inner workings of it. And you're always wondering, like, well, where did these dudes come from? Like, what's happening? Like,
they're politicizing my comics again, and that really pisses me off. They're going to there's going to be a commentary on religious extremist in this, and of course I was joking about the politicizing comments, but yeah, I mean, obvious. I think that's it, but I think it works for this character really, really well. Yeah. You know, having religious extremism within the same religion fighting each other. I mean, that appears to be where it's going, right?
It does, and at the same time, I was, you know, because there is the political slant to it. I was reading this, and I was almost there. It's almost easy to make a parallel of maybe modern day republicanism, as far as you have these conservative individuals in American politics who are not happy with where specifically, and I'm not making I can make a statement on that off the show on my personal beliefs and everything, but you have these conservative politicians and these conservative figures who are not happy with where their branch of politics is right now, but they're still remaining like they're living under that aspect. So they're still part of the Republican Party, while the party may not want them to be, you know, if that makes sense. And so it's cool seeing a little bit of that with Mark Spector and his, you know, I'm at the top of this thing. I'm one of the pinnacles, but it's, you know, do I really believe in the fundamentals of this anymore? Or has my religion and my place in it evolved past me to a place I'm no longer comfortable with? And I have no idea if that's what McKay had in mind, but it's very, and maybe I just live too much in the news cycle now and into the American politics of things, but it's very easy to draw that parallel.
Well, I think that, I mean, when he's talking to the psychiatrist, you get that feeling that he's, you know, he no longer believes in what he once believed was his mission, but he still is going to fulfill what he believes his duty is out of the concept of duty.
Which really puts him in a complicated place. Like the hero without a home aspect of it is going to be interesting for this character.
And the other thing I found very intriguing is the fact that he's in psychiatric help, you know, because of the Avengers. They've placed him there, you know, which I think is kind of compelling as well.
Well, and also the idea that you could have you know, I always think about this when we talk about professionals in comics, like, you know, you have Matt Murdock and you have Jennifer, you know, She-Hulk as attorneys. And now we know that there are psychiatrists and stuff that are on call for heroes and that they just get hired. That's got to be a weird position. Like, I always wonder how that works within the mechanics. Like, you know, how does your patient-client confidentiality kick in, and what do you say to somebody that you know is a schizophrenic vigilante?
Well, I love the part.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I love the part when she says, "Well, this is when most psychiatrists wouldn't believe you, but you know, the Avengers did send you here, so you know, anything's possible."
Oh, it's got to be a weird position. Imagine having that on your couch.
All right.
It's like, who am I going to be talking to today?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Well, this book is solidly on my pull list. I think it's fantastic. The creative team
absolutely
did an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Is that banner whining in the background?
No, all my dogs are downstairs. They're just chilling.
Okay.
So
that's my dog in the background. That's Loki in the background.
See Loki out here causing problems.
Yeah, he's just trying to tell me what his glorious purpose is. I wish he just...
I love that. That's awesome. So yeah, Nick, are you sticking with this? Is it on your pull list?
Oh yeah, this thing is definitely going on my pull list. I really want to see more of this midnight mission that he has, and just more scenes of that, like this little old lady talking about vermin or whatever. One day, I want one of these issues. I want to see like a little girl come in and just talk about this this huge problem that she has, and it's like, I really need your help. And the next thing you know, you see just Moon Knight getting a cat out of a tree. Please let me have that. Just let me just. He thinks he's gonna go do something. It's literally just a cat stuck in a tree.
Yep.
I feel like with Jed MacKay you can get that though. Like, yeah, like having read a lot of his other stuff, he does little quirky, funny things like that. So, and that's one of the things that, like you all said, I think could keep this going past just a 12-issue series. It is the fact that, you know, that's a great vehicle for bringing in new problems. Is just literally having somebody knock on your door with it.
Well, it's very similar to the television series Angel, the spinoff of Buffy, where, you know, he just sets up shop in Los Angeles and people show up and he goes out and fights the demons out there for them. You know, and that's kind of what's set up here. It's almost like a crime noir, right? You're just sitting there and the people show up and, hey, I need you to take care of this problem. Well, what is it? Well, you know, it may be getting, you know, as Nick said, getting a cat out of a tree, or it may be killing vampires. You know, you just never know.
Speaking of vampires, and this is I don't want this to be taken as a criticism. It's more of just an observation. One of the things I was really impressed with by this book and a few of the other books at both DC and Marvel right now, it's like the writers finally remembered that they're part of a collective universe, and they're referencing things that's happening in other ongoing books. I know in the past we've all been like, you know, why aren't they doing this? Like, this book feels isolated, you know, but I like the fact that they're keeping up with where they're doing what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko always dreamed of them doing, and having characters that really do live together in a shared universe. So when he references the Avengers and the recent Avengers battle where Honshu tried to take over everything and amass all the aspects of the universe, including the Phoenix Force, I thought that was great. But then you get to the fact that they're dealing with vampires, and another big part of what's happening in the Avengers right now is Dracula has set up shop in Russia, and is controlling the vampires everywhere. Like, there's literally a vampire nation, unless in some book that I'm not reading it got taken out. So I thought it was interesting that of all the monsters that they focus on, it was vampires, considering that they're supposed to all have been, like, quote unquote called home, but also Moon Knight's connection to werewolves.
Right.
You know, I found that interesting, and I'm sure it's going to play a bigger part. Like I said, it's not a criticism; it's an observation of something that I think we're going to see play up. But, you know, it could have very easily been a werewolf that attacked his new secretary, and she could, you know, the same trope. She could very easily be a werewolf, and I think play the same part. So that's got to be a plot point down the road, and I'm sure it is. But I just found it. I was like, okay, like, yeah, like I you know, you win some, you lose some on this one. You know, I wish they had a referenced or at least gone into explaining how these vampires were set apart from the folks kicking it in Dracula's army. Unless, like I said, and you guys may know, I don't know if that's been dealt with somewhere else.
Even though
I quit reading Avengers, so I'm not sure how they wrapped that up.
Gotcha.
Avengers made Craig way too mad. But yeah, even the Vermin is a reference to this Amazing Spider-Man run that Nick Spencer did. So the reason why there's like many Vermin instead of just one, which he mentions to it, you find that out in the Amazing Spider-Man run in like an arc before the one that's going on right now. So I like just to add on to the fact of how it's referencing stuff that's happening in Avengers and stuff happening in Avengers it's also referencing other books like Amazing Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, and I really like it. Like you said, like I didn't read Spider-Man, so I didn't know that. I know who Vermin is, and I was like, oh, okay, he can clone himself now. That's weird. So I like the reference point, like you said, that you could do that. Would have been cool if they did this in a few spots if they had given you the issue, and I may have just missed it.
Yeah, that would have been a good idea.
I love when they do that. That's fun stuff. How
well, it feels old school comics
right?
When they do it. Yeah.
Like that was one of the great things about the Bronze Age. And I've read a few comics here lately that really feel Bronze Agey, and maybe that's making a comeback. And if it, for the best, if it is.
As long as I don't get as wordy as they were in the Bronze Age,
ooh, that's
we're good.
That's facts. You ain't told no lie. But no, solid book.
Because I don't like words in my books. I like pictures.
No words, no politics.
I mean, you know some of the books that I read, like I like wordless books. So I'm out here waxing poetic about the sequential storytelling of a book with no words, because it is a task in and of itself. So
right.
But no, I'm excited about this. More to come. So
for sure.
Nick, any final thoughts on the book, brother?
No, just go pick up this book. Please do not do yourself a disservice by not getting this book.
3 for 3. It's a good recommendation. So we're gonna.
I don't steer you wrong when I know what the book is. It's when I don't know the book and I'm predicting the next week's books that I steer you wrong.
Speaking of,
bruh, you can't just roll up in here and steal my segues.
Hey man, I was just helping you.
No, we'll go with it. So, like Nick said, see, this is how we know Nick listens to the show. He's just like, I know what's happening. Let me throw this in there. And he's absolutely right. It's we're gonna end the show as we always do by giving you guys. We like to consider them helpful hints, or maybe setting your reading menu for the next week. Just give.
Go pick up a Noxio the Clown.
And don't do that. Craig was wrong. That's
I will never let myself live that one down.
That's okay though. Self-awareness is it's a good thing. But so each week we try to give you guys a little taste of what's coming out next week, with things that we're interested in picking up. Like Craig said, we don't know if they're going to be good, bad, or otherwise. We just see them mostly on, I think, cover value, if anything else, or what we've read in previews has grabbed our attention. So you can't really get mad at us if you read a bad book based on what we tell you to, because really this is just a soulless recommendation. There's nothing to it. So I'm curious about what you guys are going to grab this next week.
Nick, you're the company. Why don't you go first?
Cool. Well, I want to recommend Superman, Son of Kal-El, #1, from Tom Taylor and John Timms. This, Jonathan Kent in Future State was Superman, and it's been told, that he learned in Legion of Superheroes that the time was coming that he was going to end up taking over as Superman from his dad, and apparently that time has came, and it's now. And Tom Taylor's writing it, and Tom Taylor is one of my top favorite writers, one of my inspirations. So I'm really excited about this new book from Tom Taylor. I mean, to me right now, Tom Taylor, it can't do no wrong. So
he's killing it on Nightwing. I know that.
Oh, for sure, man! One of the best books right now.
So I'm going to recommend from Marvel, Amazing Fantasy #1, Red Room. It's by Carrie Andrews, I think is how you say their name. So here's a description: Red Room, Black Widow, Teenage Spider-Man, World War II Captain America, the most iconic versions of your favorite Marvel characters from across time and space all wake up on an island of intrigue, darkness, and ... amazing fantasy. And the cover alone looks Frazetta-ish.
Nice.
Or Wrightson-esque. Pick your choice. So if the interiors are as good as the cover, I'm all in.
Well, if I were to take and pretend like I can read Matt Trogdon's mind, I think Matt Trogdon would probably take things and bounce back over to DC and tell you all to go pick up Batman Reptilian #2. because you need it in your life. It's good for you. It's good for your health. We all love the first issue, so I have it. I feel good in my soul with telling you that you should go grab that book. Now, I had a book that I was going to tell you all to go grab, but I think we've given the big two. We had two DC books and a Marvel book, so I'm going to punt. I'm going to back up, and I'm going to not really punt. I'm calling an audible is what I'm doing for the sports reference. I am going to tell you to grab a book from what is hands down one of my favorite publishers today. I love what they're doing, and that is Vault Comics. And it's a book that's coming from one of my favorite writers. And so you like that's 2 for 2. So I'm going to tell you to read the last book you'll ever read. That's the title. It's the last book you'll ever read. And it comes from the great Cullen Bunn with Leela Leitz on the art. Now, earlier in the show, Nick, you mentioned MOM, the Mother of Madness book. Leela Leitz actually did the artwork in that as well, and it's stunning. It's gorgeous. So you're getting quality there. So this book, Civilization is a Lie, Hidden Deep Within Our Genes is the Truth, and it is slowly clawing its way to the surface. Olivia Cade knows the truth, and she has become the prophet of the coming collapse. You give me Vault Comics, which has not done me wrong at all. They do great horror stuff. You give me Cullen Bunn, which that is his bread and butter, with an artist that is relatively new, but that I have faith in. I'm all in. So go check out the last book you'll ever read from Vault Comics, and just don't make it the last book you ever read. It's okay to call it that, but don't follow its advice. Read more books. More books are necessary. Well, do we have anything else we need to cover, guys?
I don't think so.
No. Nick, one more time for the folks in the back. Tell them where they can find your stuff.
You can follow us on Instagram at Original Geek Comics.
Nice. Check it out and go support that Kickstarter in its last few days. Get it up there to where that second issue is going to be in your hands. We would really appreciate that. Those of us who put money on it. So, more comics is a good thing. Well, we certainly hope you've enjoyed the show. Nick, thank you for swinging by and giving us a little bit of your time this morning. I know you're a busy man, and I hope you had fun. Come back soon. If those of you who are at home need more of this and you want to know what else we're reading, again, check out our Facebook page. We're Southern Fried Geekery. Just put it in the search bar, pulls up. You can fire off an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And like Nick, we also have a little small, teeny tiny footprint on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those things. Go forth, have a fantastic week, wash your hands, and stay clean. And go forth and love some comics.
And ride the skin highway.
Oh, are we back to that?
Oh, I have the power. That's what I was fighting.
Oh, dude, you got to go watch He-Man if you haven't seen all of it. I got to go finish it. It's so
I'm
good.
going to. I intend to watch it this weekend.
It's so good. There's the first episode is brutal.
It is. Just gets right into it. I'm like, dear Lord.
Bro, spoilers, just I'm gonna leave this part in just because we're talking about it. But the first, when the fucking Moss Man, so Moss Man gets what happens, and I was like, oh, that's bad enough. But to have fucking ashes fall at his feet, he just looks at him. I'm like, God damn, like that hurt.